listener production.
Hello, Sacha Barbour Gatt with you. Welcome to The Briefing. Results from a recent study got the internet up in arms last week. Researchers in the US looking into metals in tampons found every single one they tested had traces, including of lead and arsenic. While the study is continuing to find out just how dangerous this might or might not be for women using these products, the question remains, how have tampons never been tested for this before? And for people with periods down under, are our products at risk too? Joining me now to talk about it is one of the co-authors of this study, Dr. Jenni Shearston. She's an environmental epidemiologist at the University of California Berkeley. Dr. Shearston, thanks so much for your time today. Could you explain to us why you wanted to start this research and what that did uncover once you got going?
Yeah, so this research question is something that one of the senior authors on this project, Dr. Mariantiana Kirmersoglu, actually have been thinking about for several years. And it just took several years to get funding to actually start testing the tampons and see if metals might be present. But for me, it's personal and professional. It's personal because I menstruate and I have to manage a period, and I use tampons on occasion. And it's professional because as an environmental epidemiologist, in our work, we're often studying metals and how people might be exposed to them. And we already knew that cotton, which is a major ingredient in a lot of tampons, that it can have metals in it for a number of reasons. It can absorb them from soil or water. It might get them from pesticides or fertilizers. So this was a natural extension of that work too.
So were you surprised by the findings?
Yeah, we weren't surprised to find some of the metals we were looking for because metals are everywhere in our environment. We're exposed to low levels of them all the time. But we were surprised to find that we had lead in 100% of the tampons we tested.
I guess the question then is, how bad is this? Were the levels of metal you found, harmful? I mean, any exposure to metal obviously is harmful, but I think the question is the way that tampons are used and the way that they're inserted, the fact that there's metals in them surely is a really concerning development.
So first, I do want to say I don't think there's cause for panic. Right now, our study is only finding that there are metals present in the tampons, but we don't know if the metals can come out of the tampons or if they can come into the body. And so without answering those questions, it's really too soon to make any kind of speculation about health impacts. And I urge people to have a little bit of caution there because we are exposed to metals all the time, and these are lower concentrations.
Yeah. So tell us about the metals that you did find and what sort of levels were in the products that you tested.
We tested a bunch of different metals. Some of them are essential, not toxic. Some of them are toxic. Two of the toxic ones that we found, arsenic and lead. So arsenic, for example, was present at levels that are 5 times lower than what would be allowed in drinking water. Lead, in contrast, was present in amounts that are 10 times higher than what we would be allowing in drinking water. But again, even though that's higher, drinking water is something that you just ingest immediately. You're exposed to all of it. We just don't know if you're exposed to any of the lead that's present in the tampon. We don't know if it can come out and go through the vaginal wall. And those are really important scientific questions to answer next.
Yeah, so is that process underway then to find out whether we should be more concerned?
Absolutely. So the senior author on the study, Dr. Catherine Schilling, she's at the Metal Lab at Columbia University, and she's actually doing these leaching experiments right now to see if these metals can come out of the tampons.
How long will that take? Because I'm sure that there are a lot of women, while that immediate concern might not be founded at this stage, people would want to know as soon as they possibly can whether the products that they're using are safe. So is there kind of a rush on getting some answers?
Yeah, we are definitely prioritizing that research question. Absolutely.
So the interesting thing, and I think people wanted to know once this research came out, because I've seen a lot of it on TikTok, a lot of people talking about this research. There was a question around why the brands that you tested were not revealed. Can you explain that decision to us?
Yeah, so I think we can't disclose the brands for a number of reasons, but one that's really important is actually that we tested a variety of different products. So we tested name brands, we tested store brand products, organic, non-organic, some with applicators, some without applicators, some purchased in the United States, some purchased in London or in Athens. And across all of that variation, all that variability, we found metals, we found lead in 100% of those tampons. So if we were to release the brands, we think that the focus is going to become immediately on those brands, when we're thinking this might actually be a more systematic problem. The fact that we're finding these metals in all of the tampons, regardless of these different characteristics.
So you have some theories as to how the metals may have gotten into the tampons. Can you talk us through those?
So there's a couple of ways. And again, we don't know exactly how any specific metal has made it into a specific tampon. But cotton, which is a major ingredient in a lot of tampons, it can accumulate metals that naturally occur in the soil or in water, or metals that might be added in the form of fertilizers or some other source. It's also possible that some of these metals are being added in the manufacturing process as a component of like an antimicrobial agent, for example, or as part of a whitener or as part of a lubricant. So there's a couple of different pathways we think might be going on.
A lot of women have responded quite angrily to this research. And again, you know, it's not cause for panic at this stage, but there is anger that this has never actually been looked at before. Do you empathize with those women who have expressed anger?
Absolutely, I empathize. I did not realize this prior to this research, but actually tampons have been on the market in the US since the 1930s. And it's not like lead and arsenic aren't things we've known for a long time aren't good for health. We've already known that. So yes, I think it is justified to be angry that we haven't measured what kinds of concentrations of these toxic metals can be present in tampons.
Have you had any response or communication with any of the major brands or, you know, health representatives in your country to kind of acknowledge the potential significance of this research?
We haven't heard anything from any of the manufacturers. I know that several different news outlets have reached out, but I haven't heard from them any response from any of the major manufacturers. I know the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, it has responded. It released a statement and said that they're reviewing our research. And we do have plans to speak more with regulators or with policymakers.
This research focused on brands you said predominantly sold in the US. I heard you also mention the UK and Greece. So this didn't include tampons that are sold in Australia specifically. We don't know if there's any crossover with the manufacturing, whether they're made there and shipped here. You know, those are all questions that don't have an answer right now. But I guess my question to you is, what could our listeners take from this? While it's not a confirmation that tampons sold here would have the same profile as having traces of these metals in them, should we be actively kind of concerned and maybe looking deeper into this here in Australia?
I think it'd be great if researchers in Australia could also test products that are available on the market there. Honestly, there's not a lot of research around metals or any other chemicals present in tampons. There have been a few studies, but that's less than 50. That's a very small number in scientific literature. And I think that's sad. I think we should have more research around menstrual products and around menstruation that impacts 50% of the population. So I think that's one thing I would encourage.
Dr. Jenni Shearston, thank you so much for talking to us today. And please do keep us up to date on what else happens with your research and what sort of answers you find out.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me and for talking about periods.
That was Dr. Jenni Shearston from the University of California Berkeley there, one of the co-authors of this research, which found traces of metals in tampons. And as I mentioned in the chat, testing hasn't been carried out specifically on tampons made here in Australia, but we do sell brands here that are manufactured in the US, including Tampax and You by Kotex. We've reached out to Carefree, who didn't publish online where their products are made. Tom Organic and Libra both make their tampons in Australia, while Moxie manufactures in Europe. And we will keep a close eye on any follow-up research to find out if there are important health concerns for being exposed to these metals through tampons. But that is all we have time for now. Thank you for listening. Before you go, we would love it if you could share this ep with someone you think might enjoy it. And if you want to keep up with our other content, you can check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. We're also on TikTok and YouTube. Search Listener Newsroom. That's LISTNR. I'm Sacha Barbour Gatt. We'll see you next time.